Thank you. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah? I will be honest with you from the start of this. I've been on tour in the US for the last like 2.5 weeks, so I don't have anything prepared. We're going to go off the dome. But how many people are traders in the audience? Actual like trade day to day? Yeah? How many people struggle with losses when it comes to trading? Yeah, it's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is. What I wanted to talk about today, though, is in regards to how we can handle those losses. How can we overcome those losses? And how can we become just better traders all around? And what really stands out to me when it comes to trading losses and handling them is actually understanding that they're actually not that bad, right? In the end, it's not the end of the world. I know when we're trading, it feels that way, right? It always feels like, what have I done wrong? How can I get better? Is trading even a real thing that I can be profitable at? These are all the thoughts that every trader at some point in their journey feels. It's natural, it's normal. Sometimes it can feel like it's not going to end, right? And we're just stuck in this cycle of boom and bust, as they say. But the reality being, and what I try and, or what helped me to become a bit more numb to those losses, or to at least overcome them step by step, was understanding what's going on outside of trading. What feels worse? A loss in trading? So I know some people might say actually the loss in trading feels worse, but what feels worse, the loss in trading or when you have actual hardship in life, right? When you lose, say, a loved one, or you lose, you have a breakup, or you have these losses in life that actually have a far bigger impact than just this trading loss, this loss on your trading account on that particular day. The reality is that trading can feel all-consuming. And when we're doing it, it's like, that's it. It's all or nothing when it comes to trading. But the reality of a trading journey is you're going to have peaks and you're going to have lows. Like there's the one thing guaranteed in trading. What is it? What is the one thing guaranteed? Losses, exactly. It's the only thing guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to win. You're not guaranteed to even be break even. The only thing guaranteed in trading is that you will lose. And I think the problem that people face when it comes to being traders is they are always hunting for something that means that they won't lose, or they'll lose very small amounts, and overall they'll be able to predict the market, exactly where it's going to go when it goes to the highs, or where it's going to go to the lows. And the problem with that mentality is that it just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And I know that's probably a different image to what you see online, right? Through social media, through influencers. They're telling you that, trading is the route to freedom. You can trade and travel. You can trade from anywhere in the world. And though that is potentially true, but the truth about actually being a profitable trader is far different. Profitable traders are immensely passionate, and everything in their life is set up for their trading. So from their trading routine to whether it's handling wins or losses, everything comes down to actually having a structure to their trading. Treating their trading, and you probably heard this term a lot, so apologies, but treating their trading almost like a business. The only difference is that when it comes to business, you have a lot more fixed variables in terms of whether it's stock, or whether it's your customer base, or whether it's your rent, wherever it may be, and then obviously your income is a bit more steady, a bit more. But in terms of trading, it's unpredictable. You can never predict exactly how much you're going to make, no matter how good your strategy may be. At the end of the day, the uncertainty that trading brings is a large part of why people struggle with trading. And we're not ingrained when we're brought up, and especially going through the education system, to understand that you can do everything right. You can do your job perfectly and still lose money. Where else does that happen? Imagine you went to your 9-to-5 job and then you did the work, and then at the end of the month, the boss, not only does he not pay you, he says, actually, you owe me $1,000. Right? That's the reality of trading. You did everything right. Every step followed the system, was disciplined, but you lost money. You gave money to the market. And that's the reality of trading that majority of people, unfortunately, just aren't ingrained to understand or go through. And that's why, in order to handle not only losses, but just the journey as a whole, you have to restructure your mindset to be able to handle the reality of trading. Right? To understand, a lot of people say, trading in the zone, right? The book that most people read when they come into trading talks about probabilities. But there's a difference between understanding what probabilities are and actually trading and thinking along the lines of letting probabilities play out. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people who are traders, they don't actually have an edge in the market. They have a strategy they may have learned from someone or somewhere, and they're trying to implement that strategy, but they haven't actually collected data on it. So when it comes to handling losses, especially a string of losses, especially when you go onto a losing streak, for example, a lot of people can't handle it simply because they don't actually understand what their edge means. How many people here who are traders actually collect data on their trading and journal? So you guys who put your hands up, do you understand exactly, what the average losing streak can look like within your system? So when you did that, before you collected data, was it a case where when you had losses and you had losing streaks, was it more impactful on your psychology as a whole in comparison to when you had data, and then once you have that data, you have an understanding of actually this is normal to lose 3 times in a row, let's say, right? What was the difference? Did you see a difference when you collected the data? Yeah. And that's the difference. The difference when it comes to being a consistently profitable trader is they're willing to do the work. And that work is boring, that work is mundane, it's monotonous, but the reality is that's what you have to do. I know everyone in trading a lot of the time is chasing the dopamine hits, right, that you get with the rush of trading, the volatility, especially nowadays you see with silver and gold spiking to all-time highs, having that crash. People love that euphoria. Don't get me wrong, it creates amazing opportunities. These are the opportunities that can really excel your P&L as long as you have edge, as long as you have that data, as long as you journal your trades and do the work that most people try and avoid. And the reason they avoid it is just because it's not nice, it's not sexy, it's not something that's exciting, right? To collect screenshots, to go through your data and review your week, your month, your quarter, right? To think on a bigger picture scale versus thinking about, okay, I need to be profitable this week, this month. Now, where does that all stem from? There's a mixture of things. There's a lack of or unrealistic expectations when it comes to trading. There's, of course, as we talked about already, the wrong messaging from social media that people are getting. But in this day and age, we have never had access to information that's readily available for free. That's a lot of what we do here at Words of Rizdom and Chart Fanatics. We try and give you access to the biggest and best traders in the world, verified performance, so that you can learn not only from their processes, but their strategies as well. But not only us, there is a ton of information out there, but you have to look for the right people, the right messaging. It's all good, like I said, we all want to look at the lifestyle and try and see what the lifestyle can bring. And unfortunately, or fortunately, sometimes social media promotes that to us. It depends on what algorithm or what you're used to watching, right? But it's our job to have a realistic expectation and understand what your goal is as a trader. Some people's goal is just to make some money, right? Which is fair. Like, that's why we get into trading. But some people's goal is to become a full-time trader, to make a career out of this, to not only trade for a year or 2 years and have a bit of freedom, but to trade for 10, 20, 30 years. But there's a reality and a huge difference between the two. If you want to trade for a couple of years, you could probably try and gamble your way there, right? You could try and focus on the wrong things and just use higher leverage and risk, and maybe you get the right market conditions like what we saw with the commodities recently, right? There's a great opportunity for those people who are thinking more short term. It's still a great opportunity for even those thinking long term. But when you think long term, you have to learn and look up to the right people. You have to set up your trading accordingly, and you have to be ready to play the long game. Now, that doesn't sound fun and exciting, right? But that's the reality. That's the truth. And a lot of people may not share that with you, but that is just the truth of, if you want to be a consistent, profitable trader, you have to think long term. And when you start thinking long term, those losses that you face in that month, in that quarter maybe, yes, they're still going to hurt. I'm not going to sit there and say that, you're just going to be happy about it and move on. But the difference is that it will not get you as far down. It will not hold you as far back in comparison to just thinking long term. Understanding that if you're going to be trading for, let's say, a 10-year career, just a 10-year trading career, what's the reality you're going to have a losing month in 10 years? It's very high. It's almost a certainty at that point, right? A losing quarter in 10 years, the probability is quite high still. A losing year, potentially, right? But this is the reality that most people will never sort of accept or realize. But that is the reality of a long-term career as a trader, because there's so many factors that come into it. It's not just having a good strategy. A lot of people always focus on strategy. They're always looking for that holy grail, right? But that doesn't exist, number one. I'm sorry to say, but that's just the truth. But also, it comes down to market cycles and market conditions. There are so many people who talk about and reference the COVID markets as the easiest markets that ever existed. All you had to do was buy, and there was tons of people, like an insane amount of people, who made an incredible amount of money in that time. Where are they now? Most of them are gone. Most of them are no longer in the market. Most of them gave their money back because the conditions changed. And so it's our job as traders is not only to have a strategy and to have edge, but to be able to be adaptable to the markets. And that's hard. A lot of us just aren't adaptable in life. A lot of us are stuck in our ways. A lot of us don't even self-reflect. But trading requires all of that. Trading is the biggest and best mirror into yourself. If you lack patience, if you're greedy, if you struggle when it comes to reacting and being fast when it comes to executing your trades or managing your trades correctly, trading is going to show you all of that. And that's why it's our job as traders to make sure that we are constantly being able to adapt to the markets. What does that look like? All right, being able to adapt is understanding when there's a significant change. Over this last 12 months alone, we've seen a crazy amount of changes in volatility in the markets. We saw the tariff news back in April, I believe, of last year. We saw that quite aggressive sell-off in the markets, and then quick turnaround thereafter for the rest of the year. And then we've seen earlier, just to start the year, to be fair, we've seen obviously the metals fly and then have their crash. These are slight adjustable changes in the markets, let alone if we go through the rise of obviously in COVID, then the crash in 2021, 2022, then obviously we see the consolidation, right? Being able to handle these different market conditions requires you to be able to adapt your strategy accordingly. A lot of people trick themselves into thinking that this strategy is, that's it, I'm going to use this, I found it, this is going to work, it's working now, it's going to work forever. But that's just not the case. And that's why there's a lot of traders who find success, but they do not find long-term success, which comes back to my point I made earlier. At the end of the day, it's about your goal as a trader. Is your goal just to try and maximize and make as much money as possible in the first year, 2 years, 3 years? Maybe you catch the right market cycle, you have the right strategy for that? Or is your goal to be a career trader, 10 years, 20 years? What does that look like though? Does that mean you just trade your own capital that whole time? Do you trade personal capital? Do you trade investor capital? Do you trade as part of a fund? What does that look like? And I think it's very important for every person who's looking to have a career as a trader, or just generally trading, to understand what path they want to take, right? Because then once you know what your end goal is, whether it's a particular capital amount, whether it's to work at a particular part of the industry, as I said, in a fund or maybe a traditional prop firm, regardless of what it is, when you know what that goal is, now you have something to work towards. Now you actually understand what the reality of that goal is. Where is it that you have to go? Which people do you need to get around? What track record do you need to perform with? Right? Because otherwise, if you have no goal and you don't know where you're going, what is it that you're doing day to day? Right? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Or you're just kind of moving through the motions, hoping for the best. And that's what most traders are doing, unfortunately. As I said, most traders, unfortunately, a lot of people won't like to say it, but they're just gambling. Right? And I was one of them. I'm not going to lie to you. For 3.5 years of my journey, that's what I was doing. I didn't see it at the time, but any little money I had, I was throwing it into the market. I had no edge. I was chasing the losses that I had made as they started to stack up over and over again. The only thing that can change your trading is what? It's you. You're the only person. You are in direct control of your performance. A lot of people can blame the market makers trying to hunt your stop losses. You can blame the influencer or the signals that you're trying to follow. At the end of the day, it all comes down to your own decisions. And you have to have that accountability. And again, as I said earlier, a lot of us struggle to have that self-awareness or to be adaptable, right? And just in general, in life. But how many of us have accountability in life? How many of us actually hold ourselves accountable, stick to our word, stick to the routine that we know is necessary? I imagine everyone in this room, well, I say room, everyone in front of us here right now listening, I'm sure even if you're not profitable yet, I can almost guarantee that you know exactly what you need to do to be profitable, right? I remember I did, even when I was going through that gambling stage and I was just losing, I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to have a routine. I knew I needed to create an actual edge, but I just kept pushing it off because it's the work that isn't fun. It's the work and the steps that you have to take. And the reality is nothing will change for you. And there's a saying that I love, nothing changes unless nothing changes, right? Until the pain is harder and more like the suffering of being the same hurts more than the suffering of having to actually change and take action, nothing will change. But at the end of the day, what does it come back to? It's you. The market's never going to just do you a favor and make you profitable. Some random person isn't going to come along and just give you a strategy. You're not going to randomly come across like the best mentor in the world. It all comes down to you. You have to understand your perception. You have to understand your personality and then try and match your style to your personality. So a lot of people maybe lack patience. So if you lack patience, should you be a swing trader? Right? Should you be trying to position trade? Probably not. It's not going to work out for you because you naturally are just not a patient individual. Now, could you train yourself to be? Yes. But is that going to be a lot harder than just trying to actually fit your personality? Maybe it's day trading. Maybe it's scalping. Now, I know what some people might think when you hear that. It's like, oh, well, but I have a job. Or I have things and commitments that stop me from day trading or scalping at the peak times, the optimum times. Now, that's a hardship that most people face. At the end of the day, when you're not full-time yet, you're going to have to provide an income in some way. And most of the time, your working hours are probably going to be during the peak and optimum trading hours. But that's the sacrifice we have to make. These are the struggles that you have to overcome. No one's going to come and do you a favor. Like I said, the market's not going to say, oh, this guy can't trade now. Let's give him some volatility outside of his working hours so he can trade. It's just not the way. So there's a couple options when that happens. One option is, of course, that you try and trade during the day at work. Probably not the best, but some people make it work, right? Or it's learning and adapting to what can I do that will fit my routine? What can I do that would allow me to trade around all of my commitments? But these are the little sacrifices. These are the nuances that makes a difference. But again, most people don't look deep enough. They stay on the surface level, right? And that's just naturally what we do. We don't look deeper than what we are readily confined and what is right in front of us. Our job as traders is to go deeper than that. Our job as traders is to have a true passion of the markets and an understanding of the market so that we can adapt. We can make things work for us. The beauty of the market is that anything can work. The beauty of the market that any style can work. The beauty of the market is that any strategy can work. The problem with the market is those same things, because then we can trick ourselves into thinking that I can do anything, right? And that I can try anything and again not have edge and it can still work out. But the reality is very different. You have to build that strategy. You have to build that data set, because that's where you're going to build your confidence from. That is the foundation of trading. If you have a weak foundation, meaning you lack data, you lack that confidence, how do you expect to execute effectively? How do you expect to be able to stay consistent? How do you expect to scale? Because don't get me wrong, we've talked about challenges in trading, we've talked about having a goal, we've talked about lacking data or strategy. But don't forget as well, the challenges that will come up as well is, let's say you start with $1,000, right? You're going to face challenges when you get to $10,000. You're going to face challenges when you get to $100,000. You're going to face challenges when you hit $1 million, right? Every zero is this is a lesson I learned in life in general, is every zero unlocks a new level. A new level of, yes, freedom, a new level of positiveness, but also a new level of challenges, right? And in trading, our level of risk tolerance is going to be very much tested. Not only that though, our pain tolerance in life correlates. As I mentioned near the beginning of this talk, I talked about how our trading losses in comparison to the losses that we face in life and the adversity we face in life, really there is no comparison, right? But when we're trading, it feels like nothing else matters. Everything is just in the trading, and these losses are all that matters. And the pain that we're feeling within our trading is all that we'll ever feel. But in reality, in life, we're going to face so much more adversity, much stronger, way more important. And then understanding that your pain tolerance in life, as that grows, and that's the only way that it can, is that you try and grow that pain tolerance, it's going to directly reflect in your trading as well. But it's the same in trading. You have to increase your risk tolerance. The majority of people cannot come into trading and just be able to risk $10,000 on a trade. It's a scaling process, but you have to give yourself that chance to scale. Something I like to reflect on is like, for you to be able to make $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 profit in a trade, you're more than likely going to have to lose 10,000, not first, but you will have to probably get used to losing 10,000, right? Because on average, most people's risk to reward ratio is probably going to be that 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3 mark. There's some incredible traders in the audience as well who go higher than that. But again, for them to be able to understand and respect that risk, you have to increase that tolerance. It's quite rare. I don't think I've ever come across, even all across my interviews, I've not come across a single trader who just started out with 6 figures, 7 figures and just handled it. It's a scaling process. Even from the legendary traders who traded in the Chicago pits, they didn't just start with amazing capital and huge capital. It was a scaling process. And that's what comes back to the time horizon we talked about earlier. Understanding your goal as a trader, understanding what it means to have a long-term career, right? You're going to have to scale through that. And I've met traders who have been trading for 20 plus years, and even to this day, they will still have struggles. They will still face adversity. They will still, when they take losses, it will still hurt. So I think that's a big misconception, is that you have to kill the ego and be a robot. But we're human. We're still going to make mistakes. Our job and our vision and our goal is to try and be perfect, right? I'll try our best to be perfect, try and best to follow our plan and our system. But understanding that we are human and that we will make mistakes. Our job is to make sure those mistakes are limited. And our job is to make sure, what's the real key of trading? The real key of trading, it comes down to one thing really in the end, and that is risk management. Why is it risk management? Right? I could have the best strategy in the world, but if I don't know how to risk manage, I'm going to lose eventually all of it. I could have the best psychology in the world, but if I don't know how to risk manage, I will still be able to lose everything. Risk management is what keeps you in the game. Risk management is also what allows you to scale through the game. And again, a lot of people don't focus on it, right? So when we make those mistakes, it's the risk management that will save us. And our job, again, isn't to be perfect, it's to try to be, right? But it's trying to be self-aware enough to identify the mistakes when we're making them. And that's the only way. That is the only way. I don't know where to go from here, to be fair. I think our time's finished, right? Yeah? Should I keep going? Is there any questions? I know that you don't have microphones, but does anyone have any questions at all that you want to ask? I see you. No? I think we're good. Yeah? We wrap up? Everyone, thank you for being here. If you want to check us out, we're down, actually just next door, right here. We have live podcasts going on. We have a Chart Fanatics set as well. We have some incredible traders from the channel in attendance as well, so feel free to ask them questions. And we have a lot of free merch and some giveaways going on. So I'll hopefully see you there. But thank you for listening and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you all have a great day as well. Thank you.